You're so stupid. How could you do this thing? How could you say this thing? What the hell is the matter with you? Hold your tongue. Think before you speak. Hey, look, I didn't mean to say that. Please, forgive me. They forgave you, but did they forget? Effective communication is the cornerstone of every single relationship. Start following them, and I promise you that it's going to improve your relationship significantly. Welcome back, everyone, to Nobody Listens to Kevin, a podcast where I tell you the truth about life and relationships that you will not hear anywhere else. Today's episode is all about effective communication, and specifically, how to communicate effectively when you're mad. Effective communication during a fight. I want to give you the 8 rules of arguing well. Now, you've probably heard me say this, and you've certainly heard it 1,000 other times. Effective communication is the cornerstone of every single relationship. It doesn't matter what the content of the issue is. It doesn't matter if it's a family issue, if it's sexual issues, if it's financial, if there's infidelity, work stress, whatever is going on between you and your partner is sort of irrelevant. At the end of the day, the success or failure of your relationship will come down to how well or how poorly you guys communicate with each other, and particularly how well or poorly you communicate with each other when you are mad. Because when you're mad, you're emotionally charged, tensions flare, people want to sweep it under the rug, people say things that they don't mean, and then everything just blows up. So take these 8 rules, write them down, tattoo them on the inside of your eyelids, put them on your mirror, send them to your partner, start following them, and I promise you that it's going to improve your relationship significantly. Rule number 1, we talk until it's resolved. We do not run away. We do not storm out of the room. We do not sweep it under the rug. We do not go to bed mad at each other. We do not finish this conversation in the morning. If we have to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's how long it takes for us to come to a mutual resolution, then that's what we will do. The mutual resolution doesn't have to be, okay, the problem is fixed forever. But in terms of this argument that we're having right now, we at least need to be able to shake hands and hug and kiss at the end of this argument and know what our next step is in the process. We have to come to some sort of resolution, even if it's a temporary resolution, that then leads us to the next step in trying to work out this issue. But as I said, storming off or dropping the subject or disagreeing with each other and then not talking about it and then just letting 3 days pass and we pretend like it never happened, that's not an option. That leads to resentment, which leads to contempt, which leads to disgust, which leads to breaking up with each other. The other thing that leads to contempt and disgust is saying things that you cannot take back, which brings me to rule number 2. Never say anything you cannot take back, okay? This is a really hard one. We get heated, we say things we don't mean, then we apologize. And very often, since we're all guilty of this, we'll forgive each other. Hey, look, I didn't mean to say that. Please, forgive me. And the other person will say, please don't ever say that again, but I understand and I forgive you. They forgave you, but did they forget? Did they unhear it? You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So if up until this point you've said things to your partner that you regret or that really created an imprint on them, there's nothing you can do about it other than apologize. But remind yourself the next time you're arguing with somebody, hold your tongue. Think before you speak. Because if you say something that you cannot take back, it's gonna stick in the back of their memory. And the more of those incidents you have, the more and more you're undermining the integrity of the relationship. Then the person starts to think, well, did you just say that because you were really mad? Or did you say that because that's what you really think? And that's a very dangerous road to go down. If you're careful with your words, even with your fighting, you're gonna save yourself a lot of headache in the long run. Rule number 3 is when you're mad at each other, hold hands, make eye contact, and keep your voices low. I guess you could call this rule, do the opposite of what you want to do. When we're mad at each other, We want to sit on opposite sides of the couch. We want to yell at each other. We certainly don't want to be lovey-dovey. And we very often don't even want to look in each other's direction. But neurologically, when we keep our voices low, when we make eye contact, and when we hold hands, it lowers our tension. It lowers our blood pressure. It lowers our anger. There's an amazing book about this called Wired for Love by Stan Tatkin. It talks all about the neurology of love and of communication and of being in a relationship, what's happening on a brain level. And one of the recommendations is that when you're in a fight, if you're looking into your partner's eyes, if your voice is low and calm, and if you're holding hands, it allows for there to be less tension because you're actually regulating the other person's nervous system, even though you're mad and upset. So whenever I've applied that one in my own life, I've told my partner, hey, listen, give me your hand. I'm really mad at you right now. I'm sure you're mad at me too, but let's just keep our voices low and let's try not to break eye contact with each other. It goes 10 times better. It's a night and day difference between that and when you're raising your voice or not looking at each other or standing on opposite sides of the room. So try to keep that emotional intimacy even though you're having a disagreement. Rule number 4 is do not get defensive. Drop your ego. This one easily could have been rule number 1, but the problem when we're having a fight is that we defend ourselves and we want to be right. What I tell all of my couples that I'm counseling is you can either be right or you can be at peace, but not both. As long as you're trying to defend yourself, as long as you're saying, well, I did this because you did that, as long as you're playing this tit for tat game, trying to justify your behavior and tear the other person down for their behavior, you're not going to get anywhere. And listen, you might bulldoze that person into saying, okay, fine, you're right, and I'm wrong, right? But do they really mean that, or are they just saying that to shut you up so that they can move on with their lives? If somebody's calling you out on something, even if you don't think it's true, you have to have the humility to put your ego aside and have the maturity to want to get to a resolution rather than wanting to defend yourself or explain yourself or be right. What are you going to do with being right? Did you create a resolution? Is the relationship better? Are both people actually happier? I mean, you don't get a medal for being right. So anytime you're trying to defend yourself, just remind yourself that it doesn't matter what the truth is. It doesn't matter what my perspective versus their perspective. What matters is that there's an issue here that needs to get resolved. They have a reason for feeling hurt. I have a reason for feeling hurt. They're probably both valid. So let's both put our defenses aside and be willing to see things from the other person's perspective. Being able to see something from the other person's perspective assumes that the other person had good intentions. And that's what I want you to do with rule number 5. I want you to look at your partner the way you would look at your child or look at your puppy. And what I mean by that is if your child or your puppy messes up, you're mad at them, but you assume that they have good intentions. And if you assume that they have good intentions, then you're more quick to forgive, right? Sometimes we look at our partner and we think, God, you're so stupid. How could you do this thing? How could you say this thing? What the hell is the matter with you? How many times do I have to tell you? And listen, if your partner keeps messing up over and over again, despite how many times you've told them the same thing, that's a different story. On the other hand, if your partner is trying, but they're messing up, it's kind of like a little kid, you know? You can see that they're trying, you can see that they have good intentions, you can see that they're not trying to hurt you, they're just not quite getting it yet. And you need to be a little more patient or you need to try some other remedy. But at the end of the day, you're able to forgive them because you believe that they're coming from a good, pure place. And if you can see your partner in that light, it helps a lot. Rule number 6, okay? This one's really important. Digging up the past. Do not dig up the past and use ammunition against each other from past mistakes. In other words, stay focused on the present argument. What is happening in this moment? What happened in this situation? Sometimes couples will be here, right here on my couch. They'll be talking about something that happened 2 nights ago. And the wife will go, well, back in 2005, you said that I looked fat in that dress. And now you're saying this, that, and the other. And then the other guy, then the husband will go, oh my God, you're still talking about that thing from 2005? That was 20 years ago. How can you be using that against me? And what about what you did in 2010 when I discovered those texts between you and your coworker? And blah, 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 right? And it's like, whoa, hold on a second, guys. Can we just focus on what happened 2 nights ago on Thursday night? Okay? If there are still resentments or there are still grudges that we're feeling from 2005 or 2010, we can talk about those. But first things first, let us stay present with this argument. Let's try to resolve what's in front of us right now. And we can't use the other person's past mistakes, especially if that person has apologized, and especially if we have claimed to forgive the other person, as ammunition. If you play that game, you're going to be throwing bullets at each other all night long for everything that you've ever done wrong, and you're never going to be able to resolve what's happening currently. If you let it go, if you forgave it, if you left it in the past, it is not ammunition for you to bring up right now. Rule number 7, do not ever threaten the relationship. Do not ever use the B word or the D word. B as in breakup, D as in divorce. The only time you should use the breakup or the divorce word is if you really mean it. If you are prepared to get a lawyer and have them serve your partner divorce papers, then when you're arguing with them, you can say, I want a divorce. If you are prepared that afternoon or the next day or in 2 days to truly break up with your partner and not see them anymore, not communicate with them anymore, terminate the relationship, then when you're arguing, you can say, listen, we have to break up. But that's rarely the case. Most of the time what happens is that people get heated and they say, I can't deal with this anymore, we're breaking up. Or, that's it, this has gone on way too long, I want a divorce. And then 20 minutes or an hour later, they realize, I didn't mean that. This goes back to the not saying anything you can't take back. I'm sorry, I still want to be with you, I love you, come here, okay? But every time you threaten the relationship, what you are doing is you're telling the other person that this relationship can fall apart just because I'm mad, which again is undermining the integrity, the strength, the trust of the bond between you guys, right? You're either together and you have to work through the issues that arise and breaking up is not an option, or you have to break up. But what we're not going to do is every time there's an issue, threaten each other, use leaving each other as ammunition in order to try to one-up the other person. The last rule is, this one probably is the most important of them all, although you could argue that you need all of these, which is why I included them, is you have to take responsibility. This goes hand in hand with not defending yourself and not playing a stupid ego game. But I made it its own rule because taking responsibility includes a few things. It means, 1, you have to be able to apologize sincerely. Not just say, I'm sorry you feel that way, or okay, fine, I get it, I'm sorry. But you have to really be able to look within and sincerely apologize for what you have done that has caused harm to the other person. Taking responsibility also means that you are willing to change your behavior. It's not enough to say I'm sorry if there's no behavioral change. It's not enough to change your behavior if you haven't acknowledged it and taken responsibility for it and apologized for it, right? So you need the acknowledgement, you need the apology, and you need the change of behavior. And if you can't take responsibility for how you have contributed to the issue here, Even, by the way, if the other person's in the wrong, right? Even if the other person's in the wrong, you still have some responsibility in this situation because they're not having a relationship with themselves, they're having a relationship with you. If you can't take responsibility for it, nobody can ever move forward. So I'm going to say these, and you can pause the recording whenever you want so you can write them down. Rule number 1, we talk until it's resolved. We don't sweep it under the rug. Rule number 2, we never say anything we cannot take back. Rule number 3, if we're arguing, keep our voices low, hold hands, make eye contact. Rule number 4 is do not get defensive. Drop your ego, be mature. Rule number 5 is assume that the other person has good intentions. Look at them like you would look at a little kid. Be more willing to forgive. Give them grace, give them leniency. Rule number 6, no digging up the past and using it against each other. Rule number 7, we do not threaten the relationship with the B word or the D word. And rule number 8 is you have to take personal responsibility. You have to acknowledge your wrongdoings, apologize sincerely, and commit to changing. I hope this was helpful. Anytime that you're having a conflict, sit down with your partner and say, hold on, let's pull out those rules that Kevin gave us. And if you know a couple that fights a lot and you're like, ooh, that's some toxic stuff going on, please either refer them to me or send them this episode so that they can apply some of these principles. Any questions, write to me through my Instagram or my website. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.